Hi, everybody. Very good to see you all. Good evening, good morning, whatever is the case in your country. So we're now in the working with emotions. I'm confused with all those teaching this week. What am I doing today? What did I do yesterday? What I'm going to do tomorrow? So yeah, today we are with working with emotions. And I think we spent a lot of time. I had some questions people were sending me and asking me about last week homework that you had. I mean, I hope that you did your homework with regard to the practice because this is so important. Otherwise, how can you ask questions? But I do have some very good news before we start the class, so I want us to share it with everybody. We still have 3 more classes to go, right? We have today's class, which is Amitabha. We have next week class, which is Amoghasiddhi. And then the last class will be the full composition of the whole mandala, how we practice with all of them together. And then we have a surprise because I spoke with Lamalena and she kindly agreed to join us for an additional set of time, which I'm not sure yet when it's going to happen, but we'll let you know. And then for those who have participated in the course, she will do a special class to bring in people into the Dzogchen point of view of working with the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. Because usually what she does in the retreat, the first day or the first one day or second day, what she does, she brings people to the mandala with all the working with the emotions, like we did during this course, and how to work with that. And then bringing people into the Dzogchen point of view, how to practice that. So we're going to have an extra curriculum class, which going to be Lamalina is joining us to do this beautiful the 2 more phases of working with emotion from the point of view of Dzogchen. So I don't know about you, I'm very excited about that. And she was very happy to hear that people are practicing these beautiful practices because those are really not an easy one, as you can, I guess, feel with yourself. So having said that, and having said that, the good news, and if you didn't hear that, I'll cover that in the end of the class, but again, or just ask your friend and maybe we can put it on the Vajra board. But we don't have the details yet, meaning when it's going to happen and what time, what date. We're still doing the scheduling thing. But that's a very amazing news. So let's start the class with that. So just imagine to yourself the merit field or your teacher in front of you. They're teaching us the most beautiful practices that can help us transform our mind. So our heart is full with gratitude. And with this gratitude, we just take refuge and bodhicitta and combining with the Guru Yoga, with the prayer of taking refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and the Sangha, those who support us. Sangye chudang tsoki chakdam la jang chu badu dakni keptsu chi daki chin so kinpe sonam ki rola penchir sangye chupa shok. Sangye chudang tsoki chakdam la jang chu badu dakni keptsu chi Daki chinso kimpe sonam ki rola penshie sangye chupa sho. Sangye chudang tsuki chaknam la Chanchu badu daki kyapsu chi, daki chinso ki sonam ki, yola penchi sangi chupasho. So, what do we have today? We're going to have today the beautiful red Amitabha. Sometimes you hear people are saying Amitabha, sometimes you hear Amitabha, sometimes you even hear Amitayus. Don't be confused by the name because eventually it's the same energy and the whole symbols that are defined in this under these names, different names. So we know that Amitabha, you heard about Amitabha in many variants because Amitabha usually, if you're part of the Tantrikas, Amitabha usually is part of bringing the energy in order for us to pray, in order to go to the Pure Land. I'm not going to go into the description of what is the Pure Land and why we want to go to Pure Land. This is a totally different issue, but many people are practicing Red Amitayus because of that, or Red Amitabha because of that. But there is a different practice when you do it as part of the 5 Dhyanis Buddhas. Okay, I just mentioned it because I want you to realize that it's a different practice. Okay, we'll talk about the different practices on our last class in 3 weeks, or yes, within 2 weeks from now. So we have the mandala. In the center, we have Vairochana, the white Vairochana, Akshobhya. In this specific lineage, we're going to have Akshobhya, the blue Akshobhya in the middle. Below, which is east, we have Vairochana, the white Vairochana. To his right, because we see it the other way around, to his right, we have Ratnasambhava. And above him, above Akshobhya, actually, above the central figure, the central Buddha, we have Amitabha, which is red. And just to complete that, to the right side of the Amitabha, we have Amoghasiddhi, which is the green part, and that's conclude the whole mandala, just for the completion. But today we're focusing on Amitabha. So this is a very interesting Buddha, because basically what we find out that actually we are living in the desire realm, right? You know, there are 3 realms: the desire realms, the realm that has no figures or no form, what we call them no form realms, and then we have the form realms. But humans and animals within the 6 realms are being in the desire realms. So you might say, oh, I'm not a desire person. I don't have a desire. Well, if you're hungry, you have a desire. If you're thirsty, you have a desire. If you need to go to the bathroom, you have a desire because you want to release something, right? You want to bring in something. You want to release something. So what are desires that we're talking about? Because Buddha Amitabha, actually, what's the negative emotion that's related to him is basically the desire. Sometimes it's called attachment, sometimes it's called desire, and we'll go into more details, other things that has to do around this figure. So we have the desire, the attachment, the lust, the craving, all those emotions that we have. What is it? We see something that we want, we crave to it, we desire that. What happens to us? We just want to take it, right? We go to the shop, we find a nice, I don't know, picture or some kind of machine, whatever it is. And then we said, oh, I want that. The creation of I want that, it's already a desire because you desire that these things will belong will belong to you. Even if you buy something to another person, like for example, if you buy, I don't know, a flower to your friends, or you just cook something. I think that somebody is echoing, so if you can go and mute somebody to just join. Yes, thank you. So if you buy something to another friend, you still want something that this friend will have. For some reason, I'm still hearing the echo here. No, I think it's the last one. Okay, I hope that we're gonna overcome this echo. Okay, I don't hear it now. So sometimes we don't even recognize that, going to the store and buying bread and butter is a desire because I like this bread, this brand of bread, and I like this bread of butter. So we are in a circle of craving and desiring, and that creates, as a side effect, that's create the attachment. Because what will happen if I'll go to the store and my favorite bread is not on the shelf? I'll go to the manager and I'll tell them what's happened to this and this brand. And they will say, oh, they closed the store or they closed the bakery. And I will feel some kind of loss, right? Something is losing in my life now because I like this brand of bread. So it's not only a desire to have a bread, it's a desire to have this specific bread. And if it's missing, I feel attachment to this specific item that is no longer there. Now, this is very nice to talk about, external phenomena like consuming butter and bread and whatever. But what about people? What about my children? What about my spouse? What about my friends? What about my teacher? Can I develop desire? And I'm not talking at the moment about sexual desire, okay? When I want a friend, I'm not talking only about sexual desire. I want somebody to have the communication with them, to have a good time, to go and have parties, whatever your desire is. So I want this specific friend. What happens if this friend doesn't want to be my friend? What happened to me? What comes up in mind? What happens if I have a friend and after a while we have some kind of dispute, communication, and we break up? If there is a sadness there, or an anger, or a fear, that's the sign of the attachment. Because can I have a friend without the attachment? Can I have a spouse without the attachment? Can I have someone to love without any attachment or desire that they will be mine? It will be more evident when we talk about homogacity because then the desire and the attachment creates, in homogacity, it creates the envy and the jealousy, which is a result of not having what I want, right? So we'll go back to Amitabha. So there's always a question, how can I love someone or something without an attachment? So if I go down the street and I see beautiful tree with beautiful flowers, what holds me from picking up the flower and put it into my smile? Because that movement was, oh, here, this is a beautiful flower. And I want, when the wording want is there, I want to smell it. I want to have it. I want to have it on my desk. I want something. So basically, it's going to be that I want that and that. So it can be phenomena or objects, or it can be people, or it can be relationship, or it can be even something that has to do with my own body. You know, those of you who are practicing Chöd, knowing that Chöd intentionally practicing to get rid of the attachment to the body, to our body, not external body. Do we have an attachment for that? Whenever I go and I dress myself or I put some cream on my face or I don't know, put nail polish, whatever. So this is something that I want, I like. I think that I will be prettier with this, or I will be even, I don't know, more attractive to somebody with that. Why do I want to be more attractive? Why do I want to be prettier? Because there is some kind of notion behind the thought to be more attractive or to be pretty or to have that or that that has to do with the craving. Now, you might ask, what is the difference between Amitabha and Ratnasambhava? Because Ratnasambhava was also about clinging to things, accumulating things, feeling missing of things. You already see that we have some kind of differences between the feeling, because a feeling of I want that and the feeling I don't have enough from something is different. And as you remember, part of our practicing here is to try to recognize what we feel. Through the process of the recognition of what is the feeling, what is, I want to identify the feeling, we also label it. We put a label. Later on when Lamalina will come and teach us, it will change because the labeling is something that we want, what she calls undress. But at the beginning, in order to be undressed, you first need to be dressed, right? So we need to label that at the beginning of our process. Most of us do not know to recognize the feeling. All of a sudden, I feel some kind of irritation. Do I know what created the irritation? Is it because I feel that I miss something, like Ratnasambhava? Or do I feel like I want something and I cannot have it, like Amitabha? Or do I feel jealous because somebody else has it? This is Amoghasiddhi. Or do I have kind of anger that arose, and I don't know, that has to do behind that. This is a fear that if I will not have this specific thing or person or whatever, or even qualifications like degrees or education or whatever, something will be wrong. So you see that what happens now that we are in the process of the recognition, we're in the process to recognize what's going on in our emotions, in our feelings, in our sensations. So when we see that the desire comes up or the attachments comes in place, or the craving or the lust that has to do with more of the sexual energy, when we see that comes in, what happens to us is that we can see that we can transform that into something else. And that's comes the wisdom of Amitabha. And this is very interesting because the wisdom of Amitabha, basically, we transform the desire or the attachment into the wisdom of discriminating. Now, when you hear the word discriminating, what it tells you, I mean, sometimes it's discriminating is that you want to identify that from that, right? So you're discerning. But here, the wisdom of discriminating is not about bringing things apart, is to see that you have the desire. We're not trying to suppress the desire. We're not trying to suppress the attachment. We don't do any suppressing or the decreasing of something of those emotions. But we want to see, can I see this beautiful flower without wanting to have it? I recognize this beautiful flower. I recognize my love to my friend or to my spouse. I recognize my love to beautiful art. I go to the museum, I see beautiful art. But what does it mean that I walk out from the museum and I don't have, I don't know, Monet on my wall or Picasso on my wall? What does it mean? Do I lack something because it's not mine, you know? And then if I can see somebody external, something, phenomena or objects or people or persons or whatever out externally, and I like it, because the desire is always something that I like. It's not about the disliking. This is more of Vairocana, right? So I can see that, but what happens to me if I still can have my heart open with love to this person, to this object, to this phenomenon, without the wanting? That's creating amazing love. Because what happens to us during our life together with different objects and different people, our suffering lies in the place where this person is not reacting or acting according to my hopes or my fears, right? So what happens now when my heart is full with love, regardless of this person, if I have them or not, without the object, if I have it or not? It's a totally different love. It's a totally different heart that's full with love. So I know it's really hard to explain that the discriminating wisdom, because it always brings up a question about, can I live without, I will say, my husband? When I say my in breaks, so this exactly what's bring it into my life. So what will happen if he's going to leave me, or if he is going to cheat on me, or if I stop loving him and I don't want to live with him anymore? It's about relationship with my husband or my spouse, or what about the work? What about the relationship that I have with my boss or with my colleague? Or even, do I still like the job that I'm doing? Maybe I don't want to do it anymore. Is it okay to leave the job without being, without the anger that usually comes up? Is it something I have to develop some kind of resentment and anger towards something in my work in order to leave? Or I feel that somewhere else I will have something which is better than what I have here. So again, it brings a lot of question that has to do with our daily life. Usually we don't pay attention to those questions. We don't look at them because they're not in our conscious mind. They're unconscious, and the unconsciousness create those feelings, strong feelings of desire, strong feeling of attachments that are happening around us. And we don't relate those feelings into the understanding that it has to do with the desire and the attachment. So let's do the meditation. Try to see how we can better contemplate on that and see how it's on the cushion on one hand, and then how we're going to bring it to our daily life. So sit comfortably with your channels aligned, with your back straight. Close your eyes. Put your attention on your breathing, breathing in, breathing out. And in front of you, you visualize the five Dhyani Buddha's mandala. You already know the form of the mandala. Where is everyone from those Buddhas? And you go to refuge, to the Buddha, to the Dharma, and the Sangha. You know that this method that the teachers give you, it's a method that can relieve you from your suffering. And your heart is full with gratitude. Now you sit in the west of the mandala, which is the upper part of the mandala. And you become the infinite red, luminous Amitabha. You sit in a lotus posture on a moon disk, and the moon disk is on a lotus. And your hands are in the Dhyana mudra, which is the meditation mudra. The right hand is on top of the left hand, palms up, the thumbs touching together. This is the meditation mudra. And the meditation mudra represents a very deep concentration and an inner peace. And you know that Amitabha transforms desire and attachment into this discriminating wisdom. So you're going now through a process of identifying, recognizing, longing, attachment, emotional entanglement, desire, craving, maybe even compulsive seductive, lust, and grasping. You try to identify all those very gentle emotions, or maybe strong emotion that comes up in your life. And you know that you are transforming that into the discriminating wisdom, which you see clearly the uniqueness of the clinging. And you know that you're doing your love, your heart is full with love without clinging, without the attachment. You are red, and you know that the red represents the profound symbol of the internal alchemy the transformation that happens. It also represents the fire, which has the ability to purify, to burn, and to purify, and to transform this passion into the life force of unconditional love, which is love without any clinging, any attachment. Now, when you sit there, in your heart is the seed syllable shuri or hari, dark blue. And from your heart goes out thousands of rays of light, red, going out and bringing all the world around you and all the power, the cities of the Buddhas, again into your heart. The whole world is melting into your heart, dissolving into the heart, into the seed syllable. You feel the red light inside your body. The light is moving and spreading all over, purifying the clinging and attachment, and everything dissolves into the heart. Now everything dissolves into the shri, the syllable, the seed syllable, and the seed syllable starts to melt from bottom to up. Until everything is empty. There is nothing there. And you stay there in open awareness. When you do that on your meditation cushion, you can stay there as long as you can. We will proceed now, because after sitting there in your open awareness, you re-emerge yourself as the Buddha Amitabha, red in color, sitting on a lotus and on a moon disk. Your hands are in the meditation mudra, and you're open and know that you are this beautiful, unconditional love to everything and everyone. Then you ask yourself, what happens in my life? Where can I see that desire turns into grasping? Maybe I want that and I want that, and it becomes a grasping. What happens to me when the grasping is overwhelming? Maybe it's in my work. Maybe it's in my family. Maybe it has to do with my relationship to objects, external objects, money, houses, furnitures. Maybe it has to do with food. Do I have any desire that even can develop into a situation of being addicted to a specific thing? Addiction doesn't mean only to the things that we think about them, like alcohol or drugs or smoking. It can be also addiction to attention. It can be also addiction to my running after money, for example, or addiction to have a lot of objects around me. Does that develop into the hoarding, for example? Maybe I have some kind of an addiction to food. Addiction to food can be either way, either a lot of food or no food, because this is the other part of addiction. I'm addicted to myself. This creates what we call in the psychology as anorexia. Is it possible for me in my life to stay emotionally open without losing this clarity and without losing the fact that the desire is overwhelming me? Stay open without the wanting, grasping, long lasting. Can I do that in my life? When I think about the people or my pets or my friends that I love, can I feel love with that doesn't need to hold them? And what do I feel if I feel that they are not mine anymore? So those are part of the question that we can ask ourselves on the cushion and really look into the part of this recognition with open eyes, with awareness, without judging, without criticizing ourselves or others for having these disturbed emotions in our life. Because judging, it's also part of being not open, not open love and open awareness and unconditioned love, either to others or to ourselves. So we want to dedicate the merit, the Gewa, of doing this meditation and trying to work on transforming our mind into the discriminating wisdom, which is open love, unconditional love to everything and to everyone around the world. So we can open our eyes now. So basically, as we said, Amitabha is the remedy to the attachment and the desire. So if we find out, and it's not so easy, one of the things, if you have ever worked with addicted people, you know that there is this system that has been developed that called 12 steps, right? The first step is to recognize that you're addicted, right? It's not easy. That's why it's called the first step. Without this first step, there is no way that people can overcome addiction. We're not always looking at the addiction, because when we see something which we call addiction, in the DSM, which is the book of the pathology of psychological pathology. So we know this is an addiction to drugs, addiction to alcohol, addiction to, today we also have addiction to sex, we have addiction to porn, we have addiction to gambling. We have all those kind of addictions that we know them. But do we have specific addiction that we're not so aware to? If you look behind me, for example, you see a lot of books, right? I'm addicted to books. Now, you might say, well, this is not such a bad addiction. Again, what happens if somebody takes a book from me and doesn't return that? It's not about the book. It's about my reaction to something that I hold. That's just, some kind of understanding that the desire, the attachment to the book creates something which is much more than just likes books. That's all. No, I don't like books. I have an addiction to books, which is totally different. What happens if we have, we just discussed that last night in the Tantra group that we had. What happens if we have, for example, some kind of addiction? We don't call it that way, but it is a desire and attachment to collect a lot of empowerments, a lot of initiations, a lot of teachings. And I have, sometimes I laugh about it because on my belt, like, the Indians, when they kill, they cuff the scalp and they hang that on the belt. So we have on the belt a lot of teachings, a lot of empowerment, a lot of initiations. If you don't find yourself doing the practice that you have been received and you find it very effective in your life and you continue pursuing that, what is the difference between that and pursuing after, I don't know, a drug or an alcohol or another gambling that if I'll just gamble here, I will just overcome that or something else. So just pay attention to that in your life and recognize that without judgment, without criticism, without guilt. It's not helpful to have those emotions, guilt and criticism and it doesn't help because if I develop those feelings within me, I will never work with this disturbing emotion. And I want to work with them. Remember, I want to transform all the disturbing emotions into the different wisdoms. So, as you can see, the five Dhyanis Buddhas, the working with emotion is so helpful because maybe this is the first time you really get to know yourself again without judging. You know, in the community of psychotherapists and therapists around the world, we always wish that everyone in the world will have the kindness and helpful therapist to help them. And when you say kindness, it doesn't mean that they just have to pat you on your head. Sometimes they have to be very blank. Sometimes they have to show you something that you don't like a mirror. Okay? So you might want to recognize that for yourself. Be your own therapist. Recognize those disturbing emotions. Work with those questions. I just embedded some of them in the sadhana. I gave you more in the meditation, but you can develop that when you contemplate. I just had a discussion today with one of my a patient, and we discussed something about meditation. And again, she said, I can't stop thinking. I said to her, who told you about this meditation that you have to stop thinking? I mean, can you tell your kidneys to stop producing urine? Can you? No, you can't. So why do you want to tell your mind, stop thinking. This is something that your mind cannot do. It's the same like the kidneys. Where did you get this idea that stop thinking is the result of a meditation? And this is exactly what we're doing now. We are going into the thinking mode. Contemplating is basically to think about something which is very specific. We want to concentrate on this question. We don't want to concentrate on, will I eat after lunch or after dinner or whatever, after evening. No, we want to concentrate on this question. What does it mean for me to have a desire that I can't feel? I just want to give you an example. When we are talking about people who have pathological emotional disease, like in the DSM, for example, those who are fill into the Amitabha desire and attachments, you will never believe who are they. They're the narcissists. Because what they have is they have a huge hole in their heart. Nothing fills it, and they want more and more and more and more attention, love, control, whatever, to fill this hole. But when you look at a narcissist person, you don't recognize him as a desire or as somebody with a lot of attachment, right? Of course, this is the pathological part. We are not in this situation, but be aware what's happening in your life. As I told you, I just recognized it. I remember in one of my retreats, I was working with this disturbing emotion, with the desire and attachment. And I had a lot of questions that has to do with the relationship with my husband, for example. Again, it develops into the amogacity with jealousy and envy and everything. But can we love him without feeling that I need to have an hold on him? What is the difference between open love and desire love? Or attachment in my love? And it's not easy. It's not easy. Believe me, it's not easy. It also has to do with the relationship with children. And it also has to do with relationship with teachers, lamas. I can see people in sanghas that the desire, for example, for attention is so strong. This is a desire for attention. This is also a desire. Oh, of course, not only in sanghas. You can see that in every community that you're belonging to, right? It's a very good, that's why it's called discerning wisdom, because you're working with, you start to discern what is happening around you in your world, in your thoughts, but in other people's behavior as well. And again, the vows that comes in with that is very interesting. Not to abandon a sacred perception of passion as a wisdom. So you might say, wait a minute. I'm confused. Okay? Okay, I will repeat that. I'm confused now. We just said that we want to transform the desire and attachment into wisdom of discerning, right? But we are telling us now that the Course of Maya principle here is not to abandon, not to stop the perception of passion as a wisdom. Remember, we're in Tantra. Who is writing Tantra? Vajrayogini? Chöku'i. Do you know with what they work with? Those idioms, working with passion. When you want to practice this practice, as even Amitabha, which is not exactly Yidam because it's a Buddha, we are working to work with the passion. But the passion transforms into non-clinging passion. We have to identify what does it mean to work with passion and not to be clinging to this passion. Well, this is more advanced. First of all, we have to identify and recognize the desire and the attachment that we have in our daily life. So what are the vows that has to do with this principal core, Samaya core? I'll just give you an example. It's in the sadhana. You already know that you can read that and work with that. For example, to transform desire into wisdom and not to repress and not to indulge it. Now, if I identify my desire, for example, and I'm trying, it's not to repress that. What does it mean not to repress the desire? What does it means not to repress the passion that we have? You have to work with that. For example, if I have an attachment to a friend of mine, and I love her or him dearly, what does it mean to recognize that? And what happens to me if they didn't call me for a week, for example? Or they have decided to go to a vacation with another friend. I can just suppress the feeling. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling disappointed. So this is a sign of attachment, right? Because it doesn't have to do with the love that I have to this friend. What has to do with the love that I have to them? Because they have decided to go to a vacation with another friend. It's not about suppressing, because what happens usually when you suppress the feeling is that you're degrading this relationship. You just, okay, I don't care about this person. I don't want them. I don't want them to be my friends anymore. It's a thick line that we need to identify. Yes, it's a lot of work. Put on your sit on your cushion and start doing the work. And then identify that when you work around the world and you walk there and you find all those things are happening to all of us. Or another vow. Maintain a sacred outlook towards form, sound, taste, touch, etc., which are the five senses, or even the six senses if we count the mind. What does it mean to maintain a sacred outlook? If I see a beautiful representation of a Buddha or a flower or something which is very tasty or an amazing smell or an amazing sound, a very nice song that I hear. What does it mean to maintain a sacred outlook towards it without clinging, without wanting to have it? Well, that's a training. Definitely, that's something we need to be trained of, because we are living in a times where we are bombarded by all those commercials that everything you want, everything that somebody is selling you, this lifestyle. I remember, back then it was, all those commercials that has to do with young, beautiful, amazing people dancing in party. So only if you drink Coca-Cola, you will be like somebody like that. even go further, I mean, go back and see this commercial of this macho man, amazing, beautiful, handsome man riding on a horse with his cowboy hat and smoking Marlboro. Only if you'll smoke Marlboro, you will be this kind of beautiful, handsome, macho man, then all the girls will want to be with you. We are bombarded by commercials. Can we see that? How we can protect ourselves from that? Because if you recognize a commercial that works on your emotions and work on your lifestyle as something that will create a craving towards it to purchase that, it stop having any effect on you. You don't need it anymore. Now try to see yourself around the world with all this bombarding commercial around you, and you don't need to buy. And you don't feel the craving of buying, and you're satisfying with what you have. You know what happens? Well, I can tell you that's create a problem, because then your friends, your children, your husband saying, "What do you want for your birthday?" And you say, "Nothing. I have everything." It's a problem, right? Because you don't need anything. That's a work in progress, and you need to develop that. Okay, all other vows you can go and see by yourself. I want to open that for questions because I know that's created a lot of questions, you know. Well, every Buddha creates a lot of questions. So who is the first one to hit me? Questions today. Yeah, Tatiana, thank you for being the first one. Unmute yourself because I can't hear you.
Sorry, I ended the camera and I forgot my.
Okay.
I was looking for tankers online and I was listening to one of the audiobooks about the five dakinis. And my question is, what's the difference between working with the five Dhyani Buddhas, the five dakinis, and the Yabyam form of mandala?
Okay. So in the basic, it's not basic, but in the basic mandala, we have the five Buddhas. In the Anuttara Yoga Tantra, we have every Buddha has a dakini, the yabyum, the male and female energy. It's just a symbol. Remember, all Tantra has to do with symbol. So a male energy, which represents by the female, the male Buddha, has a consort, which is a female Buddha, and they are in union. The union represents the bliss and wisdom together, right? It's also the Dorji and the bell represent the same thing. Now, some teachers like to work, and this is mainly going towards women, likes to work with the dakinis. One of my great teachers, which is Lama Tsultru Meliani, works basically with the dakinis, the five female Buddha's dakinis, okay? It's not the same energy because we have different, it might have similar energy, but it's not the same energy. Because if I can just create some kind of an exercise for you to understand the male energy versus the female energy, you will recognize what is the difference even within your body. Okay? So I mentioned that on our first meeting that there are some practices that has to go with the Dakini, but I'm not going to concentrate on that. Okay? And I refer people, if you want to go onto the Dakini female energy, you can go to Tiltra Melione. She has an amazing course on that. Okay, I hope I answered your question. Yeah, Ines.
Hi, Lopandori. Thank you very much for all those teachings. In the previous weeks and also today, I found myself asking this question in my mind, and now I'm asking it to you, is that how really we find the middle way between seeing out that our reaction is out of defilement as opposed to a reaction out of kind of feeling of safety. For example, when is it necessary that we put a boundary in order to keep ourselves safe? For example, you gave today the example of a friend who went into holiday with another friend. We observe our feeling, but what if this friend, for example, is behaving in a toxic way? So I feel that, for example, reacting not maybe out of anger, but putting a boundary, putting a distance, or having some kind of fear or anger is important or healthy in order to maintain our health being. So we know, like, for example, personality like narcissist, psychopath, they do exist. I'm not sure whether it's a projection of our mind, again, like in reference to my previous question or not, but these are phenomena that are very harmful, even though that are projection of our minds. But still, we need to find a middle way between, okay, doing all this beautiful work, but also recognizing when there are really harmful situation out there that we need to protect ourselves. So I really would like you to talk about this
Yeah.
a little bit more. Thank you.
It's a very good question because remember, first of all, before we do the work with the external world, we want to recognize our own psychic. Okay, when I'm saying psychic, I don't mean not from from a pathological point of view. But for example, if I can see that I have some kind of uh, disturbing emotion, which is very strong in me, for example, an anger or fear or jealousy or desire. People who have a strong desire, they know that because usually it's not only in one specific area, you know? Now, what your question was asking is about the boundaries. Before we put the boundaries, because I think that, open, unconditioned love and open heart is really, it might create a scary situation that comes with naivety. Okay, I'll give myself to everyone. Everything will be open to me. But you need to remember, this is the discriminating wisdom. You don't give yourself boundaries are very important. If you're a student of Lama Lena, you know that Lama Lena is always saying you need to put boundaries. For example, she gives this example that if we have been brought up in the West, the women usually brought up as being nice, being kind. What happens if you all of a sudden, I don't know, getting angry with somebody? Or somebody is trying to seduce you, or somebody is trying uh, to work in a way that might harm you. How do you put the boundaries if you're expected to be nice and kind all the time? So you need to work with boundaries. But before you work with boundaries, you want to recognize what are those boundaries for? Because if it's a fear, for example, a fear of being hurt, for example, this is one thing. Or what will happen if they don't think that I'm nice anymore? This is another fear. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very important. It's very important to work with boundaries. It's not something that we take lightly. Not at all. We're not in the situation yet, like, I don't remember the name of this bodhisattva, but there is a story about this bodhisattva that he was in the market and somebody approached him and said to him, I lost my eyes. And he just took his eyes and gave it to somebody else. We're not in this situation yet. We're not in the situation of the Buddha that he saw this tiger with her cubs and he just cut himself. She was so weak, he cut himself so she can drink his blood in order for her to develop the milk in order to feed her cubs. We're not in this situation yet, okay? Maybe one day, if we'll develop enough open love and unconditional love, we will be able to see that this body that we are protecting over it so, in such a strong manner, it just like the snake skin. Our mind will transform into something else very soon. Well, actually, it's going to happen sooner or later. It's just in a matter of time, right? So maybe if we practice enough chod, for example, or if we practice enough bardo practicing, about that, then we will not need to protect ourselves and to put boundaries the way we do now, because now when we put down boundaries, we are protecting over something, and it's always a fear. So maybe we want to go and work with Akshobhya, to find out what are the fears that we have. So again, you can see that we are going all in between all the Buddhas. Okay.
Thank you.
Oksana. Ola, are you translating Oksana? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Слышно? Слышно? Вы знаете, у меня как бы работа с эмоциями, ну, в том числе и с привязанностью, она приводит потом к депрессии, да? Когда ты начинаешь видеть эту эмоцию со стороны, вроде как не входишь в нее, входишь, не входишь, смотришь везде, вот, потом приходишь, попрактиковал, а потом начинается депрессия, да, потому что, в принципе, вот этот огонь, который возникает с желанием, во всяком случае, у меня это так, он дает какой-то стимул что-то делать дальше. А тут получается, что стимула этого нету уже, да, и ты сидишь, смотришь на эту эмоцию, тут посмотрел, там посмотрел, вот, потом понял, что возникает у тебя, так как эмоций нету, возникают ветра лишние, выпил винца, чтобы ветра опустить, день прошел, потом 2 прошло, 3 прошло, и в итоге ты понимаешь, что ты находишься уже в какой-то депрессии и выйти из этого не можешь, да, потому что любовь, сострадание еще не возникли к кому-то, к чему-то, да, ты понимаешь, что ты ничего сделать не можешь, вот, но вот этого огня, который давал тебе жизнь, да, потому что, например, мне, чтобы что-то дальше делать, мне надо во что-то влюбиться, в какое-то действие, еще что-то там. И тогда возникает такой огонь, и ты начинаешь что-то делать. А тут вот сидишь, и получается, что тебе уже ничего не нужно. Потому что ты понимаешь, что ты...
Well, there is a big difference between
Как
not needing anything and the depression that Oksana is describing, and the fact that we are, as human beings, being brought up as a desire to do something. For example, just remember, if you have been in a managerial arena in some way or another, you know that the motivation, how to motivate the employees in the organization is very important. So what usually is the motivation? The motivation usually it's competition. You want to climb in the ladder of being a higher manager, or you want to be more successful, or you want to do so. This is a motivational that we learn in this capitalism area that we live in. Now, what happens that if we have a love which has no motivation to gain something, no motivation to have it, just open-hearted love. This is a totally different energy. And if we'll go and see that in a place where we do that in, let's say, for example, I'll give you an example. I just cut my mind. I'm sorry for that. Okay, so I'm sorry. I'll go back to the depression part. A depression is usually a sign of suppression. We are suppressing something. We can suppress anger, we can suppress desire, we can suppress fear, we can suppress something. So a depression is usually a sign of a method or a pattern that we have in our mind to suppress something that we can't deal with. This is not the way that Tantra works, okay? Tantra works with the transformation. Transformation takes place with the symbols. So let's say that I don't have any, I will change the word depression into not having energy, okay? Let's say that I don't have energy to do something because you're not in depression. If you're here in this class, you're not in depression, okay? You know people who are depressed. So let's say that you don't have an energy. You used to have an energy in order to do something, but you don't have this energy anymore. Try to find out, what do you have as an energy? What is your, like, and that's why we say here in the vow, not to suppress the passion. Because, for example, if we are developing a passion to get enlightened, do we want to suppress that? Do we want to stop that? No, we have a vow not to do that. It's a sacred passion. It's a sacred desire to become enlightened for the sake of all people. So maybe we are transforming the desire that we have for object, for phenomena, for relationship, for I don't know, for status, forever, and not to push it towards the fact that we want to have it as, I would say, normal, okay, normal desire. Try to work with that. You're not depressed, Oksana, you're here. I don't want you to see people who are depressed, okay? All right, Andre.
Hello, Lapan. I wanted to ask you, from the perspective of tantric completion stage, I am usually really attached to pleasure or bliss states, and I wanted to ask how can I integrate this attachment but still do completion stage practices, because I catch myself doing it from a craving of bliss and for the nyams. And my method usually is to tone it down and just go to Trekcho or Mahamudra style meditation.
But you have a vow not to do that. If you're practicing the completion stages practices, the completion stages practices goal, its aim to develop the pleasureness, the bliss that you are feeling. If you're having this bliss, that's amazing.
How can I not grasp it? Act
Still
like a
now you're
junkie for it.
grasping it. Okay, you're young. You can grasp that.
Okay.
I hope that you have a very good teacher that will teach you, because what do we do? That, in the completion stages practices, especially in the 6 yogas of Naropa, I guess that you're practicing Tummo right now, right? Because that's creating the most bliss, right? Are you practicing Tummo or Karma Mudra?
Tummo.
Tummo, okay. What do we do eventually in Tummo? That we're trying to create this bliss in order for us to put us on the cushion. It's not easy to practice Tummo. I don't know, how long are you practicing Tummo?
For some years now, I practice with
Okay.
Lama Glenn and Lama Jampa.
Okay, so you practice that. So you know that Lama Jampa and Lama Glen, and they are my heart teachers as well, so I know them very well. It's not easy to sit on the cushion on a daily basis and to practice. So having the bliss is a very nice way that the Buddha created in order to put us on the cushion. Now, at some point, you can take this amazing ability to transform energy, because the bliss comes from transforming the energy, your ability to transform the energy, right? To take this ability of transforming the energy and to go to clear light. Because if you don't do that, are you doing Dorje Depa?
Yeah.
Okay, so you take the bliss and you go Dorje Depa, and then you go into the clear light, and then voila, you don't need the bliss anymore. When you're hitting the clear light, you don't need the bliss anymore. So continue with that. Continue
Okay.
with that. You have great teachers. I don't know what is the relationship that you have with your teachers in order for you to have the ability to talk with them, in order for them to see where are you and to give you the next step. If you're doing Dorje Depa, so you know the next step. Now, maybe you got stuck somewhere. That's the role of a teacher, to take you and to tell you, oh, you see that? You see this curve around the corner? Go to the right. Don't go left there. Don't continue straight. Go to the right. That's the role of a teacher when you're hitting. Most of us here, especially with the five Dhyanis Buddhas, we're not in the most advanced practices like Dorje Depa. Okay? So I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I don't know what is this. I don't read it. What is it? Rustam. Okay. Wow. I would read it totally different. Okay.
Дори, добрый вечер. У меня вопрос по поводу тревоги. Я раньше практиковал шаматху, и, может быть, это не блаженство, но я впадал в состояние восторга и счастья. И как только они появлялись, у меня тут же появлялась тревога, как будто бы какое-то неразрешение себе находиться в этом состоянии. Сейчас, когда я практикую 5 дхьяни Буд, у меня то же самое. В конце практики, во время присутствия, открытого осознавания, я чувствую вот эту энергию блаженства и счастья, но тут же поднимается тревога, как будто бы мешает мне это сделать. И да, я с детства страдаю от тревоги.
So you feel, yeah. So you feel that okay. So you feel that the bliss is something wrong. I'll read the vow again. Okay. This is a tantric vow. Do not abandon sacred perception of passion as a wisdom. Bliss are being used in Tantra. Please remember that. Bliss is a technique that is being used in Tantra. We're using that in order to try to be more aware to the internal energy that we have within our Vajra body. Vajra body is not this physical body, it's the energy body. We have the ability to work with this energy. There is nothing wrong with that. Why do you feel ashamed? Why do you feel embarrassed about that? That's a question for him, Ola.
А, Вы знаете, Дорит, у меня эта тревога с детства. Я поэтому, наверное, пришел к Дхарме, потому что она мне помогала как-то с ней справиться. Во время шаматхи или той практики, которую вы даете мне, у меня получается с ней справиться хорошо. Но как только я опять возвращаюсь в быт, эти тревожные энергии снова поднимаются. И я очень много перепробовал всяких антидепрессантов, но это все равно как костыли, я бы хотел от этого избавиться. И это мне мешает практиковать. Я бы хотел спросить, можно ли отказаться от препаратов, потому что вот на время вот этих недель, когда я практикую ваше учение, я не пью их. И, может быть, я к тревоге уже привык, но, знаете, она меня все равно беспокоит, и мне не очень нравится в этом состоянии быть. Я как КПТшник каждый день даю баллы
The
своей
medicals
тревоге.
are for the, hold on, the medicine are for depression, or the medicine is to suppress the desire?
Сначала я принимал препараты от навязчивых состояний. Это был иглонил. У меня было навязчивое мышление, которое, ну, оно мне очень мешало. Руминации у меня были, да.
Okay.
Мгм. Да, а потом, практикуя шаматху с фокусировкой на уме, я понял, что мысль это не что-то твердое, и эта шаматха мне очень помогла разобраться с этими навязчивыми мыслями. Но вот эмоциональный фон, вот этот негативный, тревожный, он у меня остался, и я сейчас пью антидепрессанты, Прозак, для того, чтобы у меня не было такой сильной тревоги. Вот такая история у меня.
Okay. So I want to say something. Thank you for this question. Because obsessive is something that has to do with Buddha Amitabha, okay? Obsessiveness. Because this is, if we talk about desire and attachment and we talk about obsessiveness is a very high degree of desire. Okay, that's what we call like somebody is obsessive, I don't know, with sex, or somebody is obsessive with money, or somebody is obsessive with purchasing, I don't know, watches or whatever. So the obsessiveness can be in everywhere. So obsess has to do with the fact that I cannot stop myself from doing something. That's obsessive. I don't know what is your situation. Now, this is something that has to be treated with, I would say, with therapy, because it's what happens with shamatha. I don't know which kind of shamatha did you practice, shamatha with an object or shamatha without an object, can suppress that. But in Tantra, we are not suppressing. Again, we're transforming, which is a totally different. But if somebody is heading a situation of being obsessive, meaning cannot stop from acting in a specific manner, that has to be dealt with therapy. You cannot get into Tantra and succeed there if you have any kind of overdose in anything, like in depression or in obsession or with fears like anxiety or something like that. Because Tantra, in order to succeed in Tantra, we have to have a very healthy ego. Do you remember that? If you don't remember the class that I gave about it, I don't know. It was in one of my previous series. I don't remember exactly which one was that, but what does it mean to have a very strong ego? Not being proud or something, meaning that I have the ability to be in boundaries. Obsessiveness is a very strong, a very strong situation that you cannot control desire, which is a totally different issue. Now, if you develop, as a result of that, you develop anxiety
Нет, у
because you
меня...
couldn't stop yourself. So that happens. Anxiety, that's why I guess
Мгм.
the doctor gave you Prozac, because anxiety and depression are dealt with Prozac, okay? And I don't want to get into a situation that we are having here, some kind of a discussion about therapy or medicine, okay? Because this is very delicate situation.
Мгм.
But I think you will benefit from going into therapy with regard to the overdose of desires, overdose of obsessive desires. That's therapy can help you a lot, okay?
Спасибо большое, Дори, спасибо.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Okay, so next week we're going to work with Amoga City. We will conclude our mandala with Amoga City. I guess that most of you, if you have done the initiation, the empowerment with a qualified teacher, you did the putting the flower on the mandala, right? Most of you have received the Amoga City. And I guess that you would think to yourself, why everybody around me is Amoga City? Next week we'll find out why. Also, the following week, we will work on how we're going to do it together, and we'll have more time for questions about your practice. So not the next week, but the following week. So prepare questions because it will be more of a Q&A. So you're just going to bring your practice into the table and you're going to have the answers. I hope that I can help you with the answers. But this is the aim of this specific meeting. Okay, so let's dedicate. Gewadi nyordudan chechi salang gopasho. May all beings develop the open-hearted, the unconditioned love that has no fear to get hurt and to benefit all living beings. Okay, see you next week. Practice. We'll send you the sadhana. Practice Amitabha. Very important.